Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Inept General bringing you some Total War Warhammer news. And we had patch 2.2 drop today for Total War Warhammer 3. And with that, we got a couple of new starting positions for a handful of legendary lords, which is very much Creative Assembly responding to some of the player feedback they've had. And so I thought we'd take a look at them and give you my thoughts on the new starting positions. Let's start by heading to the north to the expedition of Aleth Anar, the Shadow King. He has been moved from Caron Car because, that was the land of both Lockyer and Rakaf. So it makes sense that we had to move him, and he has instead moved a little bit to the southwest and now makes his home in the Monolith. It's not a huge change. He is a little bit closer to Silostra and to Thorox, maybe a bit more in direct danger early on. But in terms of the overall placement, it's a good change. Allow that city to be free. You can still go and take it if you want as the High Elf, but having him start there didn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of both the missions for him and the missions for Lockyer and Rakaf. So it makes a lot of sense to shift him over, and I think that's just a bit of a common sense change. Let's move south a bit, and we have Scragg. Now, Scragg has been moved, still hanging around in the general vicinity of the Border Princes, but instead he's been moved to Carrick Angazar. Now, that is the southern bit of the Black Mountains here, so he will have access to get in against the Empire. He'll be able to go against the dwarves in that mountain range, also attack the Border Princes and move south. So it's maybe moved him a bit more centrally. He can maybe make moves on Carrick-Adrin of the dwarves to the east. Just gives him a few more options and moves him away from his slightly isolated position out there and gives him a mountain range to call home as well. Moving further south, we have Techless. He is no longer next to Kroq-Gar, and he has moved to the Citadel of Dawn, the famous High Elf outpost. That makes a lot of sense. It's a High Elf outpost. It would be a big deal if a demon faction had taken it over. So Techless is there, but his enemy Kairos has moved away, and he is now in the southern Chaos Wastes. Good to have a demonic presence down there. A lot of very friendly land to take over very quickly, deal with Oxyotl, and you've got a big power base to move up your Chaos invasions into the lands of Lustria or even the Southlands. So I think that's a good improvement for Kairos, and he'd maybe have to fend off some very aggressive landings from Techless as well, who would be taking to the sea to defeat this demonic threat. One downside for this is that Kroq-Gar again is robbed of having any kind of chaos threat right next to him, so we'll have to wait and see if one gets introduced later on. So that's a bit of a shame. Kroq-Gar does like avenging himself upon the demons for what they did to his beloved Lustria back at the dawning of chaos many thousands of years ago. But that's about it. All in all, I think these are really positive changes. I think Scragg, I haven't actually played a Scragg Immortal Empires campaign yet, so maybe this will tempt me into it a bit more, rather than his perhaps more slightly isolated position taking over a Border Prince territory there. The Techless and Kairos move, I think, made a lot of logical sense for both parties, both in terms of lore and, doesn't make a huge amount of difference in terms of playability there. I assume they will probably put an AI demonic faction where the Kairos used to be, because you need an enemy there, because you don't necessarily want to go straight towards the lizard men as Techless. They could be kind of friendly allies to you. Another thing I wanted to briefly talk about with you guys is the new Regiments of Renown, which look great. They're all monstrous big units and have some really interesting abilities. Let's start off with Grand Cathay, and they are getting the Terracotta Sentinel known as the Green Guardian. Now what this guy is going to do is he is going to redirect range units back at them. So we've seen a spell that does this already in Total War Warhammer 3. This could be really powerful. If this is an aura within the range of, say, crossbows or anything like that, it could be super powerful. The unit is also coming with increased missile resistance. So, considering that one of the best effective things to bring down these large, dangerous units is missile fire, having one that could potentially be pretty immune to missile fire is a very dangerous proposition indeed. So looking forward to seeing what the Green Guardian can do. We also have Khorne's Bloody Fist. Now this will be a Bloodthirster who gains damage resistance when it's near another large enemy target. This is a monster hunter. Bloodthirsters already had their anti-large and were pretty intimidating to large monsters, but this guy just doubles up on what they're good at, and he will be slaying any huge entities he comes across in an enemy army. We have the Frozen Heart of Winter, which is an elemental bear, and this is an elemental bear with the bound spell, the Heart of Winter. So it could cause potentially huge damage to units around it if it can get that spell off. So that's an interesting element to add to the elemental bear. And we have Uncle Frankel, which... not a huge fan of the name, but it is humorous, I suppose, who has an active ability known as Defiling Deluge, which would heal him and damage enemies around him. So a kind of temporary Mortis engine, it looks like he'll be getting there. And for the ogres, we have the Snowhorn of Mourn. This guy has the active ability Glacial Defense, where it gains increased armor and missile resistance at the expense of speed. And also has Frostbite, so reducing the speed of any enemies once it gets engaged. So once it's in there, fight enemies, they'll have a hard time getting away from you, and makes you a bit more damage resistance. We have from Slaanesh, the Marquis of Masochism. This is a keeper of secrets who loves to feast on fear, with a passive ability to regenerate health when the enemy morale breaks. We've seen this ability before on Be'lakor, so we know it can be pretty powerful as long as you maybe try and boost as much morale damaging abilities as you can to any army you put the Marquis in. And last but by no means least, we have Zinc, the Golden Griffin of Theraji. And this guy will have Glittering Robe ability, and will have some Lore of Metal spells. So an interesting little element there. All of these guys look great in terms of their Regiment of Renown variant. And we also have an endgame crisis, the Vermintide. I've not seen it in action yet. I don't know where the Skaden will be popping out from. I hope it's in Lustria, because none of the current endgame abilities even hit Lustria at the moment. So they'll probably be appearing over there as well as some other areas of the Warhammer world. But I'm sure some of you guys have even tried it out as this video is coming out. And that's about it really, ladies and gentlemen. A few small tweaks. The changes made in the patch are huge. Do find a link to the entire blog about the patch notes down below. But let me know what you guys think of these changes, if you like them, if you don't. And as always, guys, a huge thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you all on the next one. Alright, guys? Bye.